Off and running on this Friday edition, a Twilight Friday edition of Gulfstream today. And like a fine wine, Gulfstream Park seemingly getting better with age. Jason Blewett, Ron Nicoletti alongside. Little third floor clubhouse studios action. Gulfstream Park through the years, my friend, as we begin anew today with a 10-race card, smack dab in the middle of August.
Yeah, 10-race card this afternoon. The Rainbow Six starting to build, about $24,000. Starts in race number 5, and start of a really nice weekend here. We got a bunch of races over the next 3 days.
In fact, 12 race cards on both Saturday and Sunday. We've got some stakes lined up, in fact, on Sunday and Saturday as well. Always appreciated, especially at this time of the year. And although you will not see a Grade 3 status, per se, in today's fourth race, Galleon, Mass, Croy, Conquest, Big E. That fourth race today, Friday at Gulfstream, is a good one.
Good one. When the overnight came out, I saw a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces. That's a fun race for a Friday afternoon, and you get a chance to watch and wager in just a little bit.
All right, about an hour out from that first race post. We are indeed fast and firm. We'll give you a little rundown as to what's on tap. A big Thursday afternoon for trainer David Falks, who walked away with a couple of victories, and his winner in the finale by Treasure Beach yesterday triggered a near $1,400 super high five carryover. You know it, you love it. We've also got race 1 jump-starting that 50-cent early pick 5. And as Ronnie was saying, we picked up a good amount of money. In fact, almost 10K, give or take, in the Rainbow Six carryover yesterday. So that carryover, a little more than 23 G's up for grabs in race number 5. And full circle, like we always do, the 50-cent late pick 5, very much devoted to the second half of this 10-race Friday card on August 17th. We'll get down to business here. Hope you're tied on as this August 17th program gets underway. And I like that we split it evenly right down the middle. We've got 5 on the turf, 5 on the main track, and turf is where it's at for your Friday first race, which will, of course, kick off that early pick 5. Very interchangeable cast. I feel like these horses, many of them, at least as far as the upper echelon horses on paper, the shorter price contenders, for the most part, they all look the same to me. And perhaps the comparison, at least that I was making in my mind, is the fact that many in here just don't win all that often. And I think the lack of winning complicates matters a bit. I am very much against the 11 My Point Exactly, who's the marquee drop down in the first race. I just have got to see him at a short price turn back successfully to 5 furlongs as he plummets. So I am 2-5-6 to start the day. Hands down, the biggest scratch, Ronnie, on today's card, the Danny Gargan, almost too good to be true Medaglia d'Oro firster that was debuting for $20,000 in race number 2. A moot point with raindrops, drop tops out, and that leaves me with the 3 Rosetta's Gift. I'm going to stand alone with her here in the second.
Yeah, I tried to make a strong case for her. I had to go deeper in that race myself.
I'm trying to wake up Tiger Blood. I'm 3 deep in the third. That's a pretty, let's be honest, a pretty soft-dated claimer where nobody's really in consistent good form or reliable form. I'm wondering if Tiger Blood, first time off a trainer change, wakes up today. 2 deep in the fourth race. Galleon Master is going to get the flow from the rail. Croy is obviously the most accomplished horse, or at least the grade 2 place black type horse. The presence of Conquest Big E is really supposed to hurt him, though. The pace is supposed to be insanely quick. And I'm 3 deep capping things in race number 5. Not an easy little 2-year-old maiden claimer, because all but one horse has experience, and nobody has been a factor in that race at crunch time.
Yeah, man, we'd similar horses on the ticket with Crosswind Katie. I thought was the logical one in there. Tough race.
It is a hard race, and the first is not easy. I do think racing luck and trips are going to come into play here, because there's just, at least the way I see it, not a whole heck of a lot in terms of consistency and ability separating the main players in the race. Now, lo and behold, Ronnie and I both picked the same horse, who is at home going 5/8 on the grass. I do like that with the number 5 Stoneheart, who's blanked. Big goose egg in 11 starts this year with a number of narrow losses.
Well, the reason I use is she finished third behind a pair of next out winners. That was on the turf a couple of starts back. Now goes back to the grass. I thought she ran a well-meant third going 5 furlongs. That was on that fast main track last time out. Alan Awinski is going to have Edgar Zayas in the saddle this afternoon. I know you didn't like the number 11 in here, Point Exactly. This one plummets to the 16 level. Return from that layoff. Really finished up the track in the $75,000 Mickey Stakes. What I liked about this horse, besides the class drop, I see that current glib work tab up at Palm Meadows. Just think they're trying to get some speed into it, turning back to 5 furlongs. So I used this one somewhere on my ticket. That was my thought process with the 11. But I like the 5 a lot in here, and it looks like early on the wagering the people do too.
Yeah, I would imagine my point exactly will be in the neighborhood of second choice. You're probably looking at favoritism with the 5 Stone Heart because of that recent solid consistency. And I'll see if the number 6, All About Yassam, who I felt as though was rounding back into form. Keep in mind, this is a 9-year-old. I was thinking on July 5th, third off the layoff would be the winning move. A lot of people did. This horse was a short price. He did not lift a hoof in that race. He's a better horse than that, even at this advanced age. I'm 5'6". Ronnie's 5'11" to start the action. Let's move on to the second here. Opening dirt race on the card. Again, we hit the main track for the first of 5 appearances on the program, and we go with that group of a half a dozen 3-and-up filly and mare, $20,000 to $16,000 maiden claimers. We lost the Medaglia d'Oro first, who was going to be favored and probably an underlaid favorite just because. With her out, this race is likely to boil down to between the 2 Lloydly, 3 Rosetta's Gift, and the 4 Country Song. And all 3, coincidentally, are coming out of the same race here.
Yeah, and Rosetta's Gift is turning back to 7 furlongs. I saw there was 9 to 5 on the morning line. I just couldn't make this horse off that performance, but it is Kathleen O'Connell, apprentice Raylu Gutierrez in the saddle, but I did go with the 4 Country Strong, cut him back to 7/8, tracked the pace, finished 4th. In that race, moved to from the turf to a mile on the main track.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Rosetta's Gift last time. I know she's a better horse than what she showed. I don't know if it was the mile distance. She showed no interest at all. But her races clearly in April at Tampa and that one right around Memorial Day weekend at Gulfstream, a reprise of those will probably just make her a very likely winner here. And Lloydly, where'd that race come from last time out? I mean, she was 60 to 1, and really it seemed improved, getting a little more real estate.
Yeah, she closed to be second in front of the horse that I ended up on top of my ticket, the 4 Country Strong. Actually, we had the 7 on the top of a ticket like I'm sure most people did before that scratch.
All right, dated 6250 claimers are up next as Friday's third race awaits a 3-and-up 7 furlong dash on the main track. A field of 7, no clear-cut favorite the way I see it. I think if you're splitting hairs, the number 6, Jaden's Best, might go off a slight favorite because of this one's efforts. In fact, separated by just an 8-day span, 3 and 4 back on June 9th and June 17th. But he has been really erratic and inconsistent over the last year or so. And the more I look around, I just think if the one Tiger Blood, and I'm not sure how long Juan Arriagada has had this horse off a trainer change. Do keep in mind, Bob DeBona was the last out trainer, and this Son of Cowtown Cat showed nothing for Bobby in 2 races off the claim. And his last race was 20 days ago. So it's not like the new connections have had months and months to work with this horse. But if this horse can even show a glimmer of some of that old form, I know that might be a big if, this will be the right field for him to beat, because keep in mind, this race opened for horses that have not won over the last 6 months.
Yeah, and going to add blinkers. The new connection is going to add blinkers this afternoon. I did go with the number 4 Spin Cycle, turning back to 7 furlongs. Dual Fleet faded to finish 5th. That was against those open claimers going a mile in the 16th in his last. I used my Charming Clyde in second, who really likes running at 7 furlongs, 15 starts, 3 wins, 5 seconds, 2/3. Dennis Ward, a couple of wins last week. He couldn't get to 1,000, then he blew right past it with those 2 wins last week. This one, 11 years old.
And has run 111 times. Pretty amazing. This horse will be starting for the 112th time today, looking for career victory number 21, and he's shown a little life in his last couple. He still likes his job out there, although he's running at the bottom. Best of luck to the 3, My Charming Clyde, the elder statesman here, perhaps, on the entire South Florida racing scene. There aren't many 11-year-olds. We've got a couple of 10-year-olds floating around. I think he's the oldest horse that's currently running, and we wish him the best of luck again for trainer Dennis Ward. 4th race, a good one. We are up in class on this Twilight Friday. Not a stake per se, but this is a stakes quality field, no doubt. This 3-and-up high level allowance optional claimer at 2 turns and 1 mile on the grass. And Croy will finally get back to the turf. He was rained off in his last race here towards the end of June. He came close to upsetting the Mathis Mayo last December 26th, that great racing day. the day after Christmas, opening day, of course, at Santa Anita. It's a race we'll show you. And we've used this race a few different times. He was beaten by one of the better turf milers currently in Southern California, a horse by the name of Bowie's Hero. And I can still remember watching and rooting for Croy, who's the gray on the front end beneath Javier Castellano. And boy, Croy did everything right, but it took a perfect ride and trip beneath Kent DeSormo for Bowie's Hero to angle out into the tooth path, and he's just up in a nick of time. Croy is a very good horse, and this is what he wants to do. He can run well on the dirt. Mile on the turf, I think, his best game. However, Conquest Big E is going to take the race to him, and I just see the pace being insanely fast.
Yeah, and also Tropicat has got to go to the lead in that particular race, and that was my thought process. Also want to show you stat on Armando de la Cerda, where horses going from turf to dirt and roots. He's 6 for 47, 13%, 32% in the money, and only a $1.80 return of investment. Not something. This horse is the class of the field if it runs back to that performance. Just wanted to point that out. Croy is, also came back and ran second behind, a really nice horse in the big drama, Mr. Jordan. So certainly the class of the field, but you and I both like Galleon Mass.
And I think he is the class of the field, but it's slight. I mean, Galleon Mass, let's not forget, this is a horse who's talked the talk here consistently on the Gulfstream Park turf, and although he's not a Grade 2 winner, I mean, he did run second in the Canadian turf, and he's been just a gem of consistency. And we're going to show you his last race back on July 8th in the Mechie Stakes, because to me, this was a bit of a crossroads-type performance for this horse going in. His return off a little bit of a layoff, Belmont Stakes Day here at Gulfstream in the June 9th Soldier's Dancer, was a complete non sequitur, a complete non-effort. He did run very well in this race, though, to finish a clear-cut second best behind Conquest Sandman, who had everything his own way on the front end and has just been a monster off the claim. So no shame in running second, even though he doesn't threaten Conquest Sandman. And again, with Conquest Big E in the race, it looks like Croy is just going to be having a run at full speed from the get-go, and that only serves to bolster, I think, the late kick of Galleon Mass.
Absolutely, the way I saw the race, too, and I think he sits that perfect trip behind the speed, and no, as you mentioned, no great cause losing to Conquest Salmon, who had won 2 consecutive stake races. What a claim that was. I also have on the bottom side of your ticket, the number 2, Tropicat. This one trained by Ralph Nix, turning back to mile. 2-race win streak ended when he he ran okay. He stalked and weakened. He finished the 6th in the $100,000 Soldier's Dancer. A horse I think maybe can't win it, but can hold on for a share, and I think that also helps hurts Croy in this particular race.
What do you see Conquest Big E potentially doing at crunch time? In my experience, it's very rare, and he's a bit of an enigma in his own right on the dirt. He's capable of some big efforts. Just look at his win, and always dreaming not the horse that he was early on in his 3-year-old season, but his win on Florida Derby Day in the Hardacre Mile was pretty solid. 2 races since then have been very subpar, and it just seems at this level, it's rare to really get a switch hitter, horse that can excel against good horses on dirt, but can also transfer that to the turf.
He just didn't run at all last time out. I'm going to have to watch one. I left him totally off my ticket this afternoon. I just have to see something back from this horse. Like you said, very, very inconsistent. Comes back, runs its best race, can be right there at the wire, but I got to see one.
All right, second time on the turf. His lone turf race, by the way, Conquest Big E, about 2 years ago, running 6, beaten about 5 lengths or so in the Better Talk Now up at Saratoga. As we, of course, still have a lot more talking to do with 4 down and that Rainbow 6 coming up after this quick timeout.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
And Gulfstream is pulling away. Gulfstream blows them away with an eye-opening performance. Awesome again has won. Gulfstream kicking clear. Judy the Beauty.
10 races on this Friday, August 17th. Another Twilight Friday here in Hallandale Beach at Gulfstream Park as Jason and Ronnie rejoin you on this live edition of Gulfstream today. And you're just in time if you're joining us because this man's going to give out a winning Rainbow Six ticket. How do you see things shaking out?
I got a $32.40 ticket. And there's a couple of races where you can actually single a couple of times in here if you want to go deeper in other races. One of the races where I thought you might be single was race number 7. That's 40 Fathoms, 4 to 5 in the morning line. That's going to be an odds-on choice there. I just wanted to use the 6, a little bit of a long shot in there. And then also in race number 9, Midtown Rose comes back, beats a bunch of these horses in the field. You might have been singling in there. And what did I do? I did single the number 6 Gorbachev on the big drop there for the Stronach Stables in the last. $32.40 for me. If you want to get creative, there's a couple of races you might be able to single horses here and go deep in these couple of wide open affairs. Like this 5th race, as we were talking before. I think this 5th is pretty wide open.
It's very tricky because all but one have raced in this opening leg of Friday's Rainbow. And for the record, we've got 8 horses in this bottom level 2-year-old filly, $12,500 maiden claimer. And outside of the first time starter, nobody else in here has really been a factor in their respective races. Now, the losses are starting to mount, relatively speaking, against this field for the 8 Awesome Friday. However, at 0 for 4, this is a big drop in class, and I'm just hoping, and clearly they had liked this filly earlier in the summertime. She was well backed in her first 2 races against Special Weight Company. She hasn't panned out, to say the least, but I'm hoping just she'll wake up here against the right field.
Well, let's show you a stat on Jose Pinchin with his 2-year-olds going from turf to dirt, maiden claiming. Not a big sampling, but a very good one. He's 3 for 7, 43%, 71% of the money, and a positive return of investment of $2.94. Awesome Friday. That's a pretty good stat. It's, you know, a lot of people don't go with 2-year-olds turf to dirt a lot, so that's why the small sampling, but I just thought this was something I wanted to show. With that said, I did go with Crosswind Katie on top of my ticket. Changing Barnes, drops a notch, duel for the lead, recent 3-furlong bullet at Palm Meadows. Positive sign for me. I think those are the logical 2 in the race.
All right, you got some early speed, that is, as well, with the number 7 Crosswind Katie, as we speed right up into race number 5 with the opening half of this Friday card. In the books, race number 6, our half-mile pole run begins with this 12-horse field on the turf here. These are 2-year-olds in the opening leg of the late pick 5. Not an easy race to get things underway. I am 3 deep. Like Ronnie's Rainbow Six ticket down the line, I have got Gorbachev singled. Racing's Gulfstream Park's version of a do-over today. If you recall, last Friday, this horse was supposed to have run and be a big favorite against basically the same cast, and the skies opened up, and we were not able to run that last race. First on the turf, and then at all.
Yeah, at all. And that horse doing the same thing it was going to do last week. That's that big drop to the 12.5 level after running okay in its debut. So I think it's a logical single in that particular race, and that is race number 10.
Couple of JBMs, as I like to call them, the Just Broke Maidens in race number 8. One for Ralph Nix, who I like, the other for Bob DeBona. Both those horses have found their way on this Rainbow's rather late pick 5 ticket that clocks in at $18. And I like both horses in race 7 who are riding recent wins into the mix, including the number 5 40 Fathoms and the number 2 Alustra. It's going out for Terry Pompey. And there is some guesswork, to say the least, to be had in this upcoming Friday 6th race as we start the late pick 5 again with an oversubscribed field of 2-year-old maiden claimers on the turf. There's 2 in the race for Victor Barboza, 2 in the race for Antonio Sano, and only 2 have tried the turf before. Now, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'll tell you, the 7 Bradshaw, who Ronnie has on top and I have 3rd, this horse is bred to handle the turf, and I know we're going to show you a dirt race, last out dirt effort for a horse who's going to be running on the turf today. However, this horse really, for the level, I think and believe, ran exceptionally well back in the 5th race, July 29th. They'll open up the starting gate, and this horse will stumble and will also get bumped pretty good there by that horse immediately to his outside. He loses a little bit of ground. He's going to have to rush up. And he got himself into contention. Things will open up along the rail. Ryder sends him on through, Sammy Camacho. So you're talking about a 2-year-old who's made a couple of different moves and has not had a chance to get his rhythm, to get his breathing, per se, beneath him. He has been under attack, under fire from the moment they rang the bell. He'll weaken to finish a pretty stubborn 3rd, beaten less than 2 lengths in this race. And again, again, I know it's a dirt race, but he ran exceptionally well. And he's by Chaba out of a War Chant Dam, man, so he should like the turf.
Yeah, and that was why I put him on the top of my ticket. Trained by Rory Miller, responded to the drop down to competition. You saw that race last time out. Certainly got bopped around at the start. So Bradshaw on top of my ticket. Now the horse that you use, Gran Paricio, I thought I was going to use this horse on top. I kept going back to Bradshaw after I watched the replay.
When I watch Victor Barboza setting out two, Amiciel, who is the first drink rider for this outfit, he winds up on this colt by Gone Astray, who is likely going to show some speed. That is good enough for me, as I hope, and I'll keep my fingers crossed this horse can stay the distance. Keep in mind, these 2-year-olds have got to stay that 2-turn turf mile, and this horse obviously will have to handle the grass as well. You're towards the outside, Ronnie, with the 10 Tangible, and both Antonio Sato horses, the 9 Sir Jack and obviously the 10 Tangible, are right next to one another, and Tangible, along with the 11 horse for trainer Javier Negrete, they're the only two in the race with prior turf experience.
You got that so important debut on the turf. You rallied to finish third in 25 maidens. I want to go back just for a second with Gran Paricio, the horse that you have on top. Got a little bit of stat I want to show you. Victor Barboza Jr., 2-year-olds going from dirt to turf. He's 3 for 6, 50%. He's in the money 83% of the time, and he's got a gaudy return of investment of $6.60. So lots to like about Victor Barboza Jr., and that's why I was torn between that horse and Bradshaw. But Tangible, always like horses that have done something other horses in the race have done, and that's run okay on the turf.
And you've got that colt by Factum on the outside, again, starting for Javier Negrete, who's coming out of the same race. They were both second and third, respectively, behind Dakota's Dude. A lot going on in the 6. Multiple layers, and we'll see who proves best on the turf. I think the silver lining, no matter who you like, what your opinion is, you're not going to be dealing with that short of a price on anybody. It's just that kind of race with no clear favorite.
Yeah, there's no clear favorite in there, and that's what I was saying when you could maybe single a couple of horses in your Rainbow 6 or your late pick 5. That's one of the races where you can spread a little bit.
All right, now perhaps spreading won't come into play for many people as we flip the page and we get back on the main track for this 7th race, a 5.5 furlong, $12,500 claimer, and that's basically due to the presence and a reclaim at that for a very sharp outfit here in trainer Safi Joseph Jr. Not easy to claim off Gilberto Zerpa. However, the sting, or at least potential peril with that statement, lessens and softens here because Safi saw fit to say, hey, I want this horse back.
Yeah, reclaimed by Safi, as you mentioned, after posting its 2nd consecutive victory, defeated similar opposition. That was going 3/4 of a mile. That's one of the horses I came this close to singling 2 on my ticket. I threw in the 6 Elvis Cole in second to 40 Phantoms back in June. He drops, hitting the board of 1 of 2 sprints at the 16 level. Robert Smith, Carlos Montalvo. This guy has been messing me up for a while. He rides some nice long shots and knocks me out of races.
Won 2 races yesterday, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was why I used Elvis Cole on my ticket. That one, I think, is 6 to 8 to 1 on the morning line, so along with 40 Phantoms, because 40 Phantoms is going to be the odds-on choice without a doubt.
Yeah, big favorite and a horse who ultimately might simply, not that he needs any help on paper, he's way the horse to beat. He may be the controlling speed as well, the 540 Fathoms. I feel as though the 2 Alustra goes out for Terry Pompey, who's had a good run of it here. Doesn't run that many horses, but her summer here in South Florida has been good. She picked up a win yesterday with Aerosol. I think that horse is obviously properly spotted and spotted to succeed first time against winners from that inside post. Let's get back on the turf. Again, a handful of races on the firm Gulfstream Park grass today. Always a good thing, and these turf fields at GP are basically underscored one race after another with big fields. You've got another 12-horse cast coming up in this 3-and-up $16,000 claimer. And rare for me, no matter the level, to really focus solely, for the most part, on horses who are coming in off maiden wins. The case here, though, Ronnie, between Rumbago for Ralph Nix and the Bob DeBona 9-horse and Big Clue, I think they might quite simply be the right horses. And Big Clue, you want to talk about winning a close photo. This horse's last race on July 22nd, he needed all the athleticism, strength, and prowess in the irons beneath Tyler Gaffalione. I mean, he needed the whole trick bag that Tyler has at his as an ability, with his ability as a rider, because I'll tell you, man, Big Clue, and I had liked him a lot. A lot of people liked him. He was 9-5 in this race off that trainer change to Bob DeBona, and he just got up over Colin, a winner, who slipped through inside outside. And you watch Big Clue, he almost idled a bit like he was going nowhere. And as they get closer to the finish line, Tyler, with all those talents at his disposal, just got up, man. Tough to even call on the replay, right?
Yeah, and you see he got carried out a little bit in the stretch, and now going to be ridden today by Jorge Ruiz this afternoon. And I'm looking at our selections where we got the same exact try. And the reason I put Rumbongo, who you mentioned, in third, we're going to skip over Remember the Maid for a second, is Ralph Nix, a maiden winner last time out on a turf at Gulfstream. He's only 5 for 39, 13%, in the money 31% of the time. Not his best move, so I backed this horse up. But I think if this horse at his best, can certainly win it.
And then we have Remember the Main. Let's not forget, speaking of remembering, trainer Louis Ramirez, who's 3 for 7 this meet, doesn't run short-priced horses. And this horse, to be honest, has run pretty well off the claim. Not that he's been superb, but, I mean, running third in both those races at good prices, 16-1 and 8-1, just quite simply makes him a major player.
Yeah, that was at the $30,000 level. Of course, today, 16, so he's dropping him where he's a major player, and that's the reason I have him second along, I believe, with you.
All right, let's see what Big Clue can do. Still amazed he was able to get up in time, man.
I remember after that race, everybody in our office was going, what a ride by Tyler. He would never give up in that race. I remember it very well now.
And Tyler, by the way, not riding today here at Gulfstream. Early on, when the races were drawn last Sunday, he had a couple of calls here and there today. But as it turned out, obviously, he's not riding here today. He's out at Del Mar. He's riding for trainer Peter Miller out there this afternoon. And I think he's got as many as 9 calls tomorrow. It's Pacific Classic Day, actually.
Yeah, he's got, I think, one horse is going to be scratch. I remember Ed Gray telling us about that. So 8 or 9 calls. So he's got a busy day at Del Mar.
Yeah, already time for the P Classic, and it's Alabama Day up at Saratoga. This summer is just flying by, faster than the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but let's make it a good ending, no doubt, to the month of August here, as we have a lot of racing remaining at Gulfstream Park. And we come up on one of my favorite races today. The 4th takes the cake with Gallium Aston Croy. That's almost an obvious, but it's rare when you look around at the entire picture in the country to see in this day and age a 2-year-old allowance race. And we have that here in this 9th race, a purse of nearly $40,000, and our final dirt race today at 5.5 furlongs. We've got some horses who are rematching first and foremost off a race here on that Summit of Speed undercard back on June the 30th. Midtown Rose won the race, and I thought ran exceptionally well. I mean, Abby Medina will pull the trigger on this horse, and Midtown Rose is the one in the blue making that 3 to 4 wide run. This is a huge run into a fast pace. Look how much ground he gained in a matter of a handful of strides. Mrs. Cruz is the first horse we had highlighted down on the rail, who basically did everything right aside from not winning. Solid effort out of the 7 Midtown Rose, Ronnie, for trainer Safi Joseph Jr., and Abby Medina will be back aboard. And although Mrs. Cruz was passed at the top of the stretch, she hung in gamely. She did not want to stop running and stayed on very gamely. And then moving late inside is the 5-horse, Corn Off the Cob, who came back to win last time out. And winning has been something synonymous with this cast that ran on Summit of Speed Day in that maiden 25. We've had 6 come back. 3 of them have won, and the neat thing is here, aside from the next out winners, you've got 3 horses in italics who are facing each other, one another today.
And those are the 2 fillies she beat in that race. Now she's going to face some boys this afternoon, Midtown Rose, so it's going to be real interesting. And you knew when you saw this stat that Jason put up and the thing that I was going with the key race, Midtown Rose on top of my ticket after beating Corn Off the Cob and Mrs. Cruz last time out. It's Safi Joseph Jr. and a really nice ride by Abby Medina. I used Corn Off the Cob in second. Now, Mozo Bello, the stranger, did not run against these horses last time.
No, this is the one. I think if you're, and I'm not against that June 30th race. I think all 3 of those fillies will run well, and I could be talked into giving a serious consideration to the likes of Corn Off the Cob, Midtown Rose, and even Mrs. Cruz on the outside. However, from a visual standpoint, if you want somebody who did not run Summit of Speed Day, I think Mozo Bello is the one you're going to want. I was up in Saratoga, in fact, the day she debuted, or excuse me, he debuted, and did not see that race until I was prepping for this card. He was a dominating winner in that race. At 5.5 was sharp. I wrote crushed. And I love this race. First time out for Armando that day.
That was a 4-length win against state-bred maiden special weight competition. So Mozabello probably the one to beat in here. But Midtown Rose beating, going to face the boys this afternoon, but beating a couple of horses in this race. I just thought I'd go with the key race angle. So have your horse actually Mozabello favored on the ticket?
I could see him being slightly favored over those horses, the fillies, in fact, that ran on some of the speed day. And that's another neat layer. Not only do you have Mozabello off the big win, running back 20 days later, the Summit of Speed race with the 3 fillies knocking heads. You've got the Colts and the fillies against one another. Nice little 2-year-old allowance optional claimer coming up in Friday's 9th race. A Friday card, in fact, as that sun later on in a few hours begins its descent down in the western sky. We'll load the field and run race number 10 today at 5 furlongs on the turf. Very much a racing Gulfstream Park version of a do-over here because Mother Nature knocked out this race last Friday with that heavy rainstorm late in the day. It may have taken Gorbachev for Joe Orsino a week to get back into the entries. He's supposed to beat this field, as was the case 7 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, he had a little bit of trouble, and he finished 4th. That was his $50,000 debut. Now they're dropping his horse immediately to 12.5 level, so there is a little bit of a red flag waving. Warpipe in second, David's Boy. Now, we have a job to do today. We have to check out Gorbachev to see he has one of those things on his forehead.
Well, he runs with the blinkers on, so I may have to ask Joe Orsino, or perhaps we'll get a good look at him when he comes up the horse path without the blinkers on. I'm wondering if he's got a bit of a mark. You think of like a heart-to-heart.
Right.
This might have been a cute little clever thing somebody at Adena Springs put together with this son of Smart Strike, right? Or
see.
Ghost Zapper, rather.
Yeah,
He's
right.
got Smart Strike on the... no, he doesn't. He's a Ghost Zapper out of a Rock Hard 10. So you got a little Ghost Zapper and Chris S. So there's a nice little pedigree there. Certainly a pedigree good enough to break your maiden second time out for $12,500. As we do not have a maiden claimer coming up, my friend. Oh, no. We've got a Grade 1 winner. The one and only Pete Aiello has got those Friday scratches and changes coming up next here on Gulfstream Today.
A passion for horses and a commitment to breed champions is the foundation of Hardacre Farm. Founded by Amy Tarrant, owner, breeder, and trainer, Hardacre Farm, based in Ocala, continues its tradition of success. From the Breeders' Cup to Gulfstream Park, Hardacre Farm. From the breeding shed to the racetrack, in pursuit of producing the best.